Hey, I'm Rosalyn, and I am the host of this podcast about the television show Girlfriends. Growing up, I used to watch Girlfriends all the time. I thought these women were the coolest, and I just could not wait to grow up and be fabulous just like them. I would laugh along with all the jokes about workplace drama and fights with friends and difficulties finding love. But now that I'm a full-grown adult, I laugh at how my young self knew absolutely nothing about nothing. I thought I knew, but I had no idea. Something I'll probably say a million times over again is that Girlfriends hits different when you rewatch it as an adult. So now that I'm going through some of the things that I watched Tony, Maya, Lynn, and Joan go through, I want to talk about it. That's why I started this podcast. It's a place to talk about life and love and everything I learned from Girlfriends. Welcome to the Girlfriends podcast. I'm so excited, and I'm even a little tempted to sing the theme song, but I'm sure you don't want to hear that. So I really wanted this podcast to feel like you're just having a conversation with your best girlfriends. I thought the best way to really get it kicked off was to have a conversation with my best girlfriends. So we had a fun time. We talked about Black women and friendships, and we even dug a little bit into which girlfriend we are. And then I have a conversation with Sexologist Shamyra, which is fantastic because I super need a professional sexologist in my life. But she taught me something really interesting about a concept called good girl syndrome. It was so fascinating. And then we wrap things up with a conversation on toe sucking. I have brought on my very best girlfriends to have a little kiki, a little chat about girlfriends.
Hi, I'm Joy.
Hello, I am Nina.
Hey guys, I'm Rachel.
We're going to start this off with a discussion about what the show Girlfriends has meant to you over the years. If you watched it, what did you learn? What did you feel? What are some of those things that you've observed from watching the show?
I think a lot of us agree in the way that we watched Girlfriends while it aired or maybe a while ago is completely different in how we take in Girlfriends now because we are grown. And so we can relate a lot better. And to feel like their problems are still my problems in 2020, like houseway. But also at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if these women can navigate through it, fictional or not, maybe I could be able to take away something from it to help me in my 2020 love life, career life, friendship life, just life, period.
Absolutely. I agree with Nina, especially in terms of watching it at a young age and then reflecting on rewatching it now. At a young age, even in that moment, I felt like it was just something super special to see four successful, together, mature women, Black women on TV, for their story to be central to everything else. I saw the importance in that, and it touched me as just like a young Black person seeing very little Black people represented on TV. And then as an adult rewatching it, I feel like, oh my gosh, like everything that they're going through is my life, and I want them to at me and maybe at Jesus. Like it's crazy, but it's also refreshing. It makes you feel like, okay, well, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. Like this is legit, like the same stuff that we're dealing with at work, the same stuff that we're dealing with these mans, the same stuff we're dealing with our family, like everything is, we are in that same struggle. And low key, there's a lot of comfort in knowing that like we're in the same struggle.
Girlfriends paved the way. Period.
I would definitely add for me that it's really special because so I started out watching Girlfriends, I think probably on my own. When I first felt like, man, this show is so beautiful is when I started watching it with you, Roz. Like, Rosalyn has the whole, all the seasons, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Very, very correct.
All the seasons. And I was like, and so when I'm at Rosalyn's place, we watch it and we're doing some Black girl stuff. Someone's doing their hair. Someone is reading, I don't know, I Wish a Jet magazine if we have one.
At least on the shade room.
It's one of those things where when you're doing it, you want to also embrace more of your culture even outside of the show. You're like sitting chatting like black girl stuff, black girl magic stuff, or just like, you want to even be around another black girl because that show makes you want to be with your own in a sense, right? So that was special to me. I love watching that show with Rosalyn, and I love being in her apartment and like lighting some incense and being like, all right, like my world real quick and just like indulge in what these ladies are going through. So I think it's a really special show, and I love that it's relevant even now for sure.
Yeah, I like obviously love this show, feel the same way, but like in my 30s, when I watch Girlfriends, I'm like, damn, this hits different. But Girlfriends was like, it was accessible to me. I could relate to it. And I saw myself in the future in ways that I could never imagine would actually come to fruition. I do watch it now and I'm like, oh my God, like I just went on a date that was kind of sort of like that. Or like,
girl, kind of, sort of.
Yeah. Or like I'm sitting down with Rachel and like we legit just went through something that these characters are going through. And even like the career stuff is like, it's so relevant to watch a Black woman in an all white law firm having to navigate these things, which truly, okay, we all know being a Black woman in the workplace is hard, but like I feel like Girlfriends low key prepared me for that because I knew what was coming.
Wow.
Like that, but it's real. Like, and we all know that, right? Like that's
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the significance of it to me. And then there's also the piece about just like Black women friendships, which like you all are pretty much the center of my life. And no, but real talk, because I'm just like, okay, like you watch Girlfriends and really like these Black women are like they've created their own family. The heart of the show is almost like the heart of my life, and that like my social circle and my support circle is you guys, other Black women who relate to like almost, every kind of level of my life and stuff I go through.
Having like an authentic circle, being able to see in the show, like these friends, they weren't surface level. It wasn't, we were friends when we wanted to go out and have a kiki. It was, we were friends when we needed to sit you down and tell you the truth about yourself. And we were the friends when we needed to come over there because you needed to cry on our shoulders. And being able to see that reflection of truly authentic relationships and friendships in a sisterhood honestly helped me realize what it is that I look for in my friendships, in my sisterhoods, and being able to reflect on the value that I have in the relationships that I have with you three, because it's not normal and it's not out there, and it's something that you have to work on, and it's something that you have to understand the value of. Like, to understand the value of somebody that's going to tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear the truth, and solely because they love you and they know that it will be what's best for you. How could I not want people like that on my team? That's the only way that you're going to win.
For real. Because my mom would always tell me, like, if you jump off a cliff, you need to look around at the people who are standing next to you when you decided to jump. Because there might be something wrong with your crew.
Okay, mama.
Okay, auntie, yes. With the knowledge.
So, which character on Girlfriends do you feel like you identify with most?
Okay, I feel like I would like to guess who people are. Right? Can we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think Rosalyn's Joan. Period.
Period.
No question asked.
Yeah, Ross is Joan. 100.
Like, let's get it over with. Roz, you're Joan. Tell us all.
So, yeah, very much agree. I feel like that was the easiest of all of us, actually. Me, Joan, like, from the beginning of watching the show, always identify with her in the sense of, like, yeah, Joan is, like, a little, like, especially, like, the girl has a 3-month rule. Yeah, like that makes sense. That I definitely like in terms of even like the way she handles her personal life, the way that she handles her work life, and the way she handles her wardrobe. Joan.
Mostly,
Period.
hello.
Yeah.
I'm glad we all agree. That was easy.
Rachel?
So easy.
Who's Rachel?
Mm.
I want to say it's a mix between Lynn and Maya. I say Lynn because you are very free, warm, loving, happy, gone with the wind. I'm fabulous, but just gone with the wind. You are fabulous. You're also a mix of Maya because you are a caretaker and you're like fiercely loyal. You stand up for those that like don't have a voice. You aren't about to stand there and watch somebody get mistreated, but also you like to have a good time. Hey.
I agree with Joy in that like I think Rachel is very much 50-50 Lynn and Maya. And Lynn because like, you know, you told me about your free spirit days and you wearing your little what are those things called that you was wearing?
Ponchos.
Yeah. Which I can't I cannot like I can't think about you in one of those without laughing. And that's the Lynn in you. The Maya in you is definitely like the mother, you know, but also the person that will turn up on you because you be low key threatening people like violently and it always
Low
catches
key.
me
I'm
off guard.
sorry. Low
I'm sorry,
key?
high key.
Thank you.
High key threatening people with and it's like that and it's almost like that's your switch between like Lynn and Maya because you're cool and you're peaceful and you're like save the whales until somebody crossed the line and then you're all up in it.
I totally agree with like all you guys. My spirit is definitely Maya and Lynn combination for sure. And I think even when I watched it, like I was always very attracted to both of their characters way more than like Lynn or Tony. Because Maya will tell you the truth 100% all the time. Even if you don't want to hear it, she's gonna tell you the truth. So I loved that about her. And then I loved Lynn because yeah, the free spirit thing is definitely in me. Great job, guys. Love it. Love it.
Let's do Nina. I think Nina is mostly Lynn with a touch of Joan. And I'm going to say mostly Lynn for the following reasons. Nina is very sort of like, I'm going to do me. Like, I don't really care exactly what you think about it. But also, Nina is like you're really like a sexually free and liberated kind of person. I mean, my hashtag goals.
But also, like, let's add to the fact that, like, when it comes to the relationship part, yes, she's hella free, but that chick will never label nobody as like all me. Like that's me, girl. Like Lynn was, I feel like, queen of being like, we're just friends. What are you doing? You're doing the most right now. Like
No, Nina will love him and call him every adverb, noun, and adjective but her man.
So true.
yeah, one more thing. Also, Nina with that Joan energy is that she will always come through. If Nina, like, if you ask her, girl, come help me with this, I need to set up this. Remember how, like, Joan was, first of all, she took over Maya's wedding and they just didn't want it. But then she, like, chilled out and was like, all right, and was like, I'm not going to do nothing. But then she still came through. I feel like that's Nina. She will still come through, help you with what you need, be on your side, do whatever you want to do, but she will be there. And I think that is that beautiful Joan energy. Nina will always come through for sure.
Well, now that I could say some, first of all, I want to say, like, who needs best friends when they can read you like this? Like the red I just received. I will receive it. I will receive it. But my gosh, I need to go back in my journal and like put some notes down. Y'all really just read me. So the end. Like the things y'all said about me in relationships is so fucking true. It's painful. It's like, wow, that's what I am. And I think a part about having like such good friends is like, okay, let me reflect on what y'all said because I know that it's true. So let me act like it's true, you know? I felt like I was such a Lynn, but reflecting on what the people who know most about me, like y'all know the most about me, and just reflecting on that, maybe I am a bit of Joan because I do like this sense of order and I do like this sense of like actual like stability and like, you know, wanting to plant some shit into something. And I feel like that's what I'm doing now. So I feel like I was a Lynn and now thank you girlfriends, a little bit of Joan. Damn. Okay, friends, thanks. The end.
Okay, Joy.
Ooh, that's a hard one. Somebody else go.
Yeah, Joy is a hard one. So I feel like I have a different take on JoJo because I have known her over time. And honestly, if I could make a separate character for this show, like to be Joy, I would. I think there are parts of Joan that are in her because she is confident, but I used to think that she was a bit uncertain on how to express herself. But I think over time, and especially in the last couple of years, I've seen her become like someone, and I don't know when it happened. I don't know who did it or like what did it, but she has become so much more confident and outspoken where I could see that Tony, where she is not shy to say what she feels.
First of all, can I just like let everybody know that Joy's about to cry? Just the end.
Obviously.
So I'll piggyback over that because we've known Joy for quite some time. And I would say that she has blossomed into her whole self. And it's just such an incredible thing to see. And so I wanted to say that she is more like Maya because she don't give like, I feel like Maya gave no fucks. Joy has almost an opinion about like a lot of things because she takes the time to fucking research and then sits back and sees what her opinion is on these research or on like what this thing is happening. If I need news, okay, whether it's like fluff news from Shade Room or from like CNN, like I go to Joy because I don't go to CNN or Shade Room. I just go to Joy.
Aw, thanks, guys.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what you think you are. What do you think you are?
It's funny because I feel like the person that I was 10 years ago isn't the person that I am today. The person that I was 5 years ago isn't who I am today. So I feel like at different phases in my life, I was these different girls. As you were saying everything you were saying, I was like, yep. Because before I didn't feel comfortable, like just like being my full self. Like I always like dimmed a little bit of who I was. Like I used to not care at all about my birthday.
Ew.
And I feel like that came from a place where like I really didn't feel like there was much about me that was like necessary to be celebrated. And then I like hit this point where I was like, what? I am like everything about me needs to be celebrated for the full month of July. Hello. When I think about like the person that I've become, I can like very distinctly go back to like y'all and be like, man, this is what I took from Nina. This is what I took from Roz. This is what I took from Rachel. And I'm like, man, this is like, I used to be like, man, I love this about them, but I don't know if I can be that. And now I've grabbed that from them and I've made it into my own.
And I'm going to say this. I know Joy hasn't said which girlfriend she belongs to or like associates with, but Ray, I'm with you, girlfriend. I feel like Joy is the additional girlfriend they meet. So my answer to Joy, who would Joy be, is she'll be Joy in girlfriend. She'll be like, hello, y'all met me at this little cafe y'all be going to, and I'm in here to win it. The end.
Oh, man. So before my interview with sexologist Shamyra, I would like to welcome you to Rosalyn's Boudior. This is a segment where we tell stories, we share secrets, and we just try to get ourselves together a little bit. I like to think of it as like the bathroom when you and your girlfriends are getting ready to go out. It's like a space where you're having a real conversation, you could be your true self, and you could be gut level honest. So, this week in Rosalyn's Boudior, let's chat a little bit about Joan and the dilemma of perpetual singleness. Our girl, Joan Clayton, has the makings of what seemed like to me a very satisfying life. She's a successful lawyer, she's got her girlfriends, she has the wardrobe that I personally dream about. Even 20 years later, I want her wardrobe today. But Joan is staring 30 years old in the face without even the hint of the type of romantic relationship that she really wants. So she hasn't had sex in a year. She's beholden to her no sex before 3-month rule, which, if you ask me, is just Joan trying to control her relationships with the hopes that she ends up at the altar. And this is interesting because I dig into this a little bit more in my interview with Shamyra. In these first episodes, what we see is a woman who's coping with not being able to attain that dream that she's always had. No matter what she does, she can't get it. She can't manipulate herself into the dream. She can't just will it to be. There's nothing that's working for Joan. Joan is looking for more, and when you're looking for more, it can be super, super frustrating.
On purse watch, huh?
Yeah. What are you doing here? I thought you had a date.
Yeah, well, I thought I did too.
What's wrong with us? I mean, here I am holding my girls' purses while they have fun, and you're getting stood up. William, we're pathetic.
Joan, don't ever be a suicide counselor.
No, really. What is wrong with me? Why can't I be more like my girls and just pick up a man and have my way with him?
Because like me, Joan, you're looking for something deeper. Something with a future.
Yeah?
Then again, we are humans with physical needs.
Oh, yeah.
How about a sex pact? If you don't have anybody in 6 months, and I'm not seriously involved, then I'll do you.
Joan's dream feels so unattainable, but like the rest of us, she still hopes for it. But I ask the question, what do you do when that hope starts to hurt? So I self-identify as Joan Clayton, and I'm also a perpetually single person, which is also probably why I self-identify as Joan Clayton. Yes. Anyhow, I ask the question that all super single people eventually ask, which is, should I even try anymore? Should I even continue being intentional about looking for love? Some people might suggest like that old cliche, you'll find love when you stop looking for it. But honestly, to me, that just seems like fanciful BS. Like, of course, that's some people's testimony, but in my experience, life is rarely that simple. There's the other school of thought that says you'll find love when you're quote unquote ready. And that's a really interesting perspective to me since I've seen plenty of people pull their shit together as a result of trying to maintain a relationship. And honestly, it's mostly men who get to do that, but that is a whole nother conversation. That's a different episode. Anyways, it seems like when the hope really starts to hurt, we kind of all do the same thing. We try multiple things to try to get what we want. So you might start off not dating anybody at all, and then you might switch to a more carefree dating and just be dating anybody, and then you might shift to trying to be more intentional about who you date. We try it all, and sometimes in the process you start to feel better, and sometimes in the process you just still hurt. But the grief that we feel while waiting for love is real, and it has a name. It's called ambiguous loss, and it's also sometimes called ambiguous grief. So singles experience ambiguous loss when you're grieving this person that you thought you would have already found. And this type of grief is really tough to deal with because we never know when it will end, if it will end, and if we should keep holding on at all. It's as if you're grieving this life that you thought you would already have. And to be quite honest, I am not really sure what the solution is here. My guess is that there are a bunch of ways to pursue love that might work. Either way, I do believe that like attracts like. So if you're sad and you're frustrated and hella thirsty, that's what you're going to attract. But if you're happy, fulfilled, and loving your life, that's what you're going to attract. And my personal mantra is that I cannot let grief steal my blessings and kill my light. And I say that to myself all the time. And when I'm feeling so over the whole love and dating thing, and trust me, I can get super pessimistic, I know that I have to do everything that I can to make sure that that grief doesn't overcome me. And like, I hold fast to that. So that's what I do to just keep going. And for most of the seasons of Girlfriends, we see Joan kind of do the same thing. Like, she keeps trying different things. She's dating different types of guys. She resets, and then she gets up and tries again. But the one big part of Joan's story is that she's hopeful. She's holding on to hope. So, in the spirit of Joan, I would encourage you all and myself to keep it moving and do not let sadness steal your light. Okay, girl? Welcome to the very first podcast for Girlfriends. I'm super excited because I am here with Sexologist Shamyra. Shamyra is a therapist who specializes in sexuality and relationships. She is also an international speaker and author of the book Use Your Mouth. She was also named one of the most influential dating experts of 2019, so we are very lucky to have her with us. Thank you for joining us, Shamyra.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me, Rosalyn.
Of course. So before we get started, I'm going to go into This Week with Tony, Maya, Lynn, and Joan. Just a little recap of episodes 1, 2, and 3 so that we can really dig in to our favorite girlfriends.
Yes.
Perfect. So, episode 1, we meet our girlfriends. Yay! It's Joan's 29th birthday, even though she's telling everybody it's her 26th birthday. She's throwing a party, and Tony, her best friend, is bringing a very special guest who happens to be Joan's ex-boyfriend, toe-sucking Charles. Lynn and Maya both protest Tony doing this because it's wrong. Then at the party, Joan learns that toe-sucking Charles is actually now ready to settle down. She flips out. The party's over. Tony then realizes that she was 100% wrong, comes to see Joan, only to find out that toe-sucking Charles was at Joan's house. Uh-oh. And then 1, 2, 3, hug it out. Tony and Joan ditch toe-sucking Charles. They patch it up and go grab Italian food. End of episode. Yay.
Yeah.
Episode 2 that we'll be talking a little bit more about is, hey, guess what? Joan has not had sex in a year. She's still holding on to her 3-month rule, which means that she cannot have sex until she's been in a committed relationship for at least 3 months. But her girlfriends try to convince her to have a one-night stand. While they're out for drinks, all the girls are out flirting except Joan, who's sitting back holding the purses. Obviously, Joan gets a little frustrated and she decides to try to have a one-night stand. It goes all the way wrong. She lies and says that she has a one-night stand with this guy, ruins his relationship with his fiance. And then when she finds out that the guy, Davis, actually wanted to end his relationship with his fiance, she then says, no, Davis, we cannot have sex because of my 3-month rule. End of the episode. In the last episode we'll be discussing today, episode 3, where our girlfriends plus our BFF William head out for a night on the town. Things go wrong when Tony gets into a little fight outside the club. Maya and Lynn jump into the fight, but Joan doesn't. Tony is, like, really hurt over this. Joan is all like, I'm a lawyer, I could get disbarred, so I can't be on the street fighting. And then Tony and Joan patch things up after Tony admits that she didn't feel like a priority in Joan's life anymore. And then they hug it out and they're friends again. So, that was just a little recap, but I want to start out, Shamyra, by asking you, which girlfriend are you?
Of course, this is one of my absolute favorite shows, and the girlfriend I am is the one, you know, that when we take the tests on, I don't know if you've ever taken any of the quizzes to see which girlfriend's character are you, which tomato are you, and all of that. Well,
Yes.
I have always identified with Joan, and on each of those quizzes, I am Joan on the quizzes as well. So, Joan's my girl.
Yeah, she's mine too. I am very much a Joan. Yeah. And I mean, like, I might have like some little hints here and there, but yeah, we're both Joans. That's great.
Yeah. I might not be as Joanish today, but but I'm definitely I definitely relate to Joan most.
Yeah, yes, I do. And, well, really, especially with the next thing. So one of the things that the episodes go into is that I would classify Joan as like an accidental celibate woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's been celibate for over a year, or a year at that point. She hadn't had sex at all. She's not a one night stand type of girl. And she really holds closely to this 3-month rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, like, what is your perception of that, of her 3-month rule? Like, what do you think about that?
It's very interesting, right? So Joan was 29 years old, right? At this point, she's 29 years old.
Mm-hmm.
In another year, she was going to be 30. And what we find is that when a lot of women reach 30, it's almost like, uh-oh, I have to do things differently. It's time for me to settle down. I have to have kids. My career has to be perfect. So everything has to be perfect and in order and in line. And I am no longer in my 20s, so I can't entertain the things that I entertained in my 20s. Things have to be a little bit more serious now. So
Mm-hmm.
people who I date now, I'm dating for a purpose. So I'm not sure how often you've heard that. We're told that we have to date for a purpose, right? And
Right.
so, and that works for some people, but it also depends on what your purpose is. And so, for a lot of women who are 30 or reaching 30, their purpose is marriage and kids because that's what we're socially conditioned to think that we need to do at that point in time. So, as a 29-year-old successful Black woman, as Joan was in Girlfriends, and having this 3-month rule, that goes back to the thought of good girl syndrome and also it's time for me to settle down. So it's a mixture of that. So do you know what I mean when I say good girl syndrome?
No, I was just about to ask you to break that down for me because I think I might have that.
Okay, a lot of women have this, right? And so I, of course, you know that I'm a sex therapist and a relationship therapist as well. This comes up a lot on my green couch. So good girl syndrome is usually the social programming for women by men and also other women on how a woman is supposed to present in order to get and keep a man. So
Mm-hmm.
it starts from early childhood, right? Usually these were the girls who were, or the teens or the women who were overachievers, always had to do things the correct way. For a lot of people, they were very involved with their religion, whatever that was. They were very involved with their religion. These were the people who made the oath to not ever have sex before marriage. And so, the good girls don't have sex too soon. Their self worth is measured on the premise that a woman is ripe for the picking. And so, if you're ripe for the picking, that means that you are pure and you won't cause shame for your man because a sexually secure woman is socialized as shameful, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of women grow up with this good girl syndrome that they have to present a specific way in order to attract a specific man and keep this man in order to have that good name going. And I think when you said accidental celibacy, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I think this probably goes into that as well. And what this 3-month rule is, okay, I'm 29, I'm soon going to be 30. I need to make sure that the person I'm having sex with, that they value this because this is something that we're taught that it has so much value and we have to make sure that the person we're giving it to values it and understands the value. So in 3 months, we'll be able to tell whether or not someone values sex with us in the way that we're told they should value it. And this is someone who we are told that they might even stick around. So a lot of people, I'm not sure that this is much of a thing as today as it was then, but for a lot of people, especially good girl syndrome women, they have these rules. Some people have 30-day rules, and the 3-month rule was really big back then for a lot of people because we were told that if someone waits out 3 months, I think this was even in one of Steve Harvey's books, but if
Mm-hmm.
someone waits out for you for 3 months, they really like you because men are not waiting that long to have sex with women that they like.
Right. And I love the phrase good girl syndrome because like that just encapsulates so much of the experience that I have as I grew up in church.
Mm,
So I really relate to that and feel like I have a similar experience. And especially like looking at a character like Joan, you're like, she is everything. Like, she's got a
yes.
great job. She was amazing. She had a fire wardrobe, everything. And then you're like,
Absolutely. I loved her wardrobe.
huh. It was my
That was
favorite
my
part of the
favorite
show.
part. Yes.
Yes. Because we're
Yes.
both Jones.
We're both Jones. See what I'm saying? And I too, like you, grew up in the church and was socially programmed to have good girl syndrome. But I'm a sexologist now, so I'm not sure my pastor or my grandmother still thinks I'm this good girl.
Right. But that's okay because that's the kind of movement that I think we, especially as black women, because when you add on the complications of race and the way that
Hmm.
race makes people view you sexually, it changes a lot
Absolutely.
of that. And so,
Absolutely.
how do you sort of take some beginning steps to get past that good girl syndrome? If you're
Well,
like in that place where you're single and you're dating and you maybe you do want something special, maybe you don't, maybe you just want to have experiences. I don't know.
I like that you use the word experiences because that's exactly what I'm going to discuss. So, first, knowing and understanding that good girl syndrome is a thing, right? And a lot of people question how they show up. Like a lot of people, women, black women, don't feel authentic in the way they are showing up in relationships, in the way they're showing up in the bedroom. And this causes lots of different issues in relationships and as it relates to bedroom issues as well. So if you find that you are someone who's struggling with being in that soft spot between feeling authentic and feeling like an imposter, right? Or feeling like, who am I? Or trying to
Hmm.
find yourself, as many people would say, I say, have experiences. Allow yourself to have experiences. Figure out what it is you want to do. Um, know what your why is. Ask yourself, why am I holding on to these beliefs? Why am I holding on to these behaviors? What do I want to get out of this? But also ask yourself this question too. What do I want to experience? And allow yourself, give yourself permission to receive those experiences because as you mentioned, the intricacies of race with this is that a lot of black women are not conditioned to receive. It's give, give, give. I have to give. I have to give so much of myself. Even growing up in the church, it's all about give, give, give. The more you give, the more you receive. The freely you give, the freer you receive. So those are the messages we get growing up, and that does not automatically leave us when we're older. And so what I would recommend for people in that space is to ask yourself, what is your why? What do you want to experience? And start seeking those types of experiences. You also don't need another person to seek those experiences as well.
Hmm. Yeah. And I that's really profound to me, the idea that we're really conditioned to always be giving. And I think it's just so true. And yeah, wow, that mind blown.
Yeah,
Thanks for
right?
that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So when you're kind of looking for experience, what is the safe place for that? Like, should there be time limits, 30 days, 3 months, or maybe not limits, but guidelines? Are those
Okay,
things that you should have, or should it just be more about gauging how you feel?
good question. So, one of my favorite things to talk about with people everywhere, in session, out of session, one of my favorite things to talk about are boundaries. That's one of my
Hmm.
favorite things to talk about. So, when you say limits, that's what a boundary is. So, when I say have these experiences, I'm not saying just go jump out here and go, just put yourself in a position to just be as free as you want to be without consequence. It's like I said, know your why and also know what you want to experience, but also have boundaries for those experiences. Like, what are the things that you are not willing to tolerate? But also be transparent about those boundaries, be upfront about it so that when you are having whatever type of experiences you're having, whether they're sexual experiences, experiences with new girlfriends, experiences with a new job, you have to know what your boundaries are because your boundaries teach people how to treat you. And
Mm.
yes, that's what your boundaries are. So if your boundaries are, hey, I'm really looking for new experiences, new sexual experiences, but I really would like for someone to take me on 3 dates before I'm able to have sex with them. If that's your boundary, that's your boundary. But also understand the other side of a boundary is people do not have to agree with your boundary. And so it's important to understand that as well. People don't have to agree with your boundary, and the ones who don't agree with your boundary, they do not get to receive access to you.
I think that's really good because I am constantly, figuring out where my boundaries are. And I think what we see with like a character like Joan is she seems always doubtful of her boundaries a little bit. Like she's, like, it's like, oh, she really wants love. She wants a relationship. You can tell that that's something that is important to her. And so she set up a couple of rules, probably quite a few rules, if we're being honest, so that she can get to her goal. Because that's probably what has worked for her with all of her career stuff and her school stuff and all of the things where she's already been successful. So when you have that, how can you sort of figure out, like, when you're negotiating your own boundaries, like we see with Joan? Is there ever a place that you get to where you're like, okay, well, my boundaries aren't getting me to my goal? Or is it just like you just hold those things closely until there's someone who respects your boundaries? What would you say to that?
So that's a great question. I think a lot of people get stuck there, right? Like, okay, I have these boundaries, but nothing's happening, right? And so I'm a goal person. I love a good SMART goal, right? So you have a goal, and then you have a plan for how you achieve that goal. And so you don't necessarily have to change your goal, but sometimes we know that we might have to adjust our plan sometimes. Does that mean adjusting your boundaries? Maybe, depending on what your boundary is. My thing is this too. Know your core values too, right? So core values are those things that are non-negotiable, right? Those are your values that you're going to hold fast to. Those are the things that are non-negotiable at the time. Different from a boundary, right? Because a core value is, because boundaries can be changed. We change boundaries way more loosely than we change core values. Core values make us who we are. So it's our religion, it's our financial goals and values, it's our parental goals and values. Those are our core values. Our boundaries might be, don't call me after 10 o'clock. If you're going to have sex with me, you have to use a condom. Those things are our boundaries. And so if we know that with boundaries, you can loosen your boundaries, and people often do loosen boundaries as they become more comfortable with a person. But I would say if you see that you're not meeting your goal, I would say adjust your plan a little bit. Like, where is your plan? Where are you in your planning phase, right? What is your plan and how are you getting there? If you recognize that, okay, it's this 3 date rule, right? How important is the 3 date rule to you? Do you really need someone to take you on 3 dates before you have sex with them? If your answer is truly yes, hold on to that boundary, because someone will come along and they will honor that boundary. So hold on to your boundaries if they are your boundaries. When you feel comfortable enough to relax your boundaries, then you can do so. But hold on to them, and you don't necessarily have to change the goal. You might change your plan a little bit. You might see where you are in your boundaries and see where you're getting stuck, and if you will want to adjust them. But I wouldn't adjust them because people aren't necessarily respecting or honoring the boundary, because one of the reasons why we need boundaries are for the people who don't want us to have the boundaries anyway.
Sure. Yeah. You got to like keep some people out. Like
Yes,
everybody
yes,
can't come in. Yeah, but I
absolutely
really
not.
like that. Like the idea of just like maybe shifting the plan a little bit. It's a really good piece of
Absolutely.
advice. Yeah. So I want to shift focus a little bit to something else that we see in the episode, which you have Joan admitting to her friends, like, hey, I haven't had sex in a year. And, they kind of rag on her a little bit. Like
Hmm.
they're like, girl,
Right.
why?
Hmm.
And, she's defending herself a little bit. But like I said, it doesn't seem that she's quite, confident with where she's at with her relationship. So she's like, no, I want to wait. And they back off. But then later on, she kind of succumbs to that pressure and
Pressure.
she tries to have a one night stand. And this is something that I feel, like in our society, we're becoming more accepting of people and their sexuality, how they express that, with whom they express it, the amount of people they express it with. We're becoming really a better society at accepting people. But
Right.
one area where it doesn't quite seem like, people really respect is if you're like, I'm choosing to not have sex right now for a reason. And one thing that I know, I can't remember what season of The Bachelor it was, but it was a recent season, and the contestant was a guy, the main guy, The Bachelor. I don't watch The Bachelor, but I'm sorry. Anyway, he was a virgin.
Virgin. I did hear about that. Yeah.
Exactly, because it was all over the place.
Yeah.
And, I read a couple of pieces about it, and they were talking about how, even the contestants couldn't stop talking about it. It was all over, the blogs and stuff. And I thought it was so interesting that people really just thought that was just the weirdest thing ever. And, where it may be uncommon, it's still his choice. And so I think we just see a lot of the pressure towards people to have sex. And so what would you say to people who are experiencing that type of pressure, like we've seen with The Bachelor and like we see with Joan in this episode?
Yeah. So, like, it's 2020 now, right? And so there was a point in time when it was, the good girl syndrome stuff where you couldn't really disclose that you were having sex. But now it's, if you're not having sex, something is wrong with you. Like, what's wrong with you? And I think that that's the premise behind it, because we're a super hypersexual culture, right? So we have this obsession with sex and sexual thoughts, behaviors. We don't really know much about sexual education, but we know that sex feels good and we like to have it. And the goal is to try to have as much sex as you can. And if you're not, then obviously then there must be something wrong with you. So that's why a lot of people lie about whether or not they're having sex or not, because they don't want there to be this idea that they're not sexually desirable. Like, nobody wants them sexually, right? So that's one thing. But also, what I would say to people in this situation is, again, hold on to your boundaries. So don't succumb to the pressure. People, I mean, I work directly in this field, and I can tell you now that people are not having as much sex as society will have us to think that they're having. And they're definitely not enjoying. A lot of people aren't enjoying the sex they're having, which is why I do the work that I do. So my suggestion is to honor your boundary and get to know yourself more, get to know yourself sexually more. You can find out who you are sexually without engaging in sexual experiences with other people. So get to know yourself more. Don't succumb to the pressure. Keep your boundaries.
So what I hear you saying is keep your boundaries and masturbate.
Yes.
Figure your life out.
Get your life together. Yes.
Yeah, so but there's a lot to learn.
There is. And I mean, once you know who you are, you know what you want to experience. So I like to tell people to explore yourself. Even if you don't want to masturbate, explore yourself. Look at your genitals, look at your body in a mirror, naked, right? Look at find something that you really like about yourself, right? Again, because when you know what you like and you know who you are, you know what you want to experience. Therefore, when you do get ready to share yourself with someone else, you'll be able to guide them and direct them, and you'll know what you want, especially if you're a woman. That's super important for you to be able to know and honor and value yourself as a pleasurable being.
That sounds like a solid step in moving past the whole good girl syndrome. Like, if you're a single girl and, you maybe want to start having experiences, you don't have to wait.
Right.
You can start now.
You can start now.
Start today, guys.
Right now, at this second, at the sound
at this very
voice.
moment. This is going to turn into something else, which I am so here for.
Yes.
So you've given a lot of great, pieces of advice, and I'm very thankful for. I will be implementing in my life. But what is sort of the one big piece of advice that you would give Black women specifically who are trying to make peace with their intimate lives right now?
What I would ask you to do is to define intimacy right now, because I'm all about intimacy. My book is about 7 types of intimacy. And the reason why I ask that is because Usually when people hear the word intimacy, they immediately go to sex, which is why I created the book. So when you say intimacy, are you talking about sexual intimacy, overall intimacy, or what?
When I say intimacy, I'm talking about overall intimacy. So sexual intimacy, of course, but then also emotional intimacy, because I see
Yes.
them as connected. If you want to have good, intimate experiences with other people and yourself, I think that you have to be in a place where you can be emotionally honest and you can feel unashamed of who you are. You can accept that you are a sexual person and it is okay to go to that level of you that is not necessarily maybe like at the very top or front place, if that makes sense.
And
Yeah, I think
you just answered your own question. I
well
love that.
darn.
I love that. You just answered it. That's what I would recommend for women who are struggling with finding themselves the intimate them. Of course, I would tell them first to read the book, Use Your Mouth, Pocket-Sized Conversations to Simply Increase 7 Types of Intimacy in and Out of the Bedroom by Sexologist Shamyra. But also, I would ask people to define what intimacy means for them. If they were receiving if you were receiving the type of intimacy that you wanted, how would you know? How do you display intimacy? Are you even open to receiving intimacy? What's your relationship like with yourself? Because we know that true intimacy starts with you and how emotionally attuned you are and having an intimate relationship with yourself, right? So again, knowing who you are will help you to understand what you want to encounter in others, because we know that understanding yourself significantly affects intimacy, because it creates that awareness that allows you to feel more secure with yourself so that you can be vulnerable with someone else, which is another topic that's discussed in my book. Is a big part of intimacy requires vulnerability, and a lot of us are not open to being vulnerable at this point.
I would think that maybe a lot of us aren't open to be vulnerable because we have never had the space to be, and we've not created those spaces yet for ourselves to be
Yes,
open,
yes.
vulnerable, and raw and honest. And it's scary.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
definitely scary. It's scary for a lot of people, which makes it even more courageous, as Brene Brown says, and which makes vulnerability even more courageous because of how scary it is, because of how raw you have to be in order to show up as your authentic self. The problem with vulnerability for a lot of people is people are afraid of rejection. I'm afraid that if I show you who I am, you're not going to like me. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why a lot of people aren't vulnerable, because we want to be accepted. And a lot of us inherently don't think that we are desirable or we are worthy of acceptance. Because, like you said just a little while ago, because someone or something happened somewhere down the line where we were vulnerable and someone took advantage of our vulnerability.
Right.
And so now we're
Right.
closed up.
Fear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah. And I think the idea of rejection really gets at our basic human needs to be in communion with other people. And that's the real scary part, is like, if I get rejected, I am being cut off from the connection that I need to actually stay
Yes,
alive.
yes,
And
absolutely.
that's scary.
It's very scary.
But that's why we're going to get into your book, Use Your Mouth. So I'm super excited to dig a little bit more into some of the questions in Use Your Mouth.
Hmm.
I definitely could go for a little bit of increasing intimacy and learning a little bit more about that. So, can you just tell me about the book? And I
Hmm.
think we're going to go into some of the things that you have in there.
Okay. Well, the book was created after the Use Your Mouth sex and relationship conversation starts blew up in the way that they did. So the cards are actually conversation starter cards that I created that helps couples to talk about sex and relationship, or to help people talk about sex and relationships. Because what I find on the green couch in practice is that a lot of couples don't know who each other don't know their partner sexually. So when I would ask questions about intimacy, or I would ask about sex and turn-ons and turn-offs and fantasies, it's people would really clam up, or they didn't really know. And I'm talking about people who had been married for 20 years, people who had been married for a year. So it didn't matter how long people were together. I found out that people generally were not talking about sex. And it's because of
Yeah.
course that because there's lots of taboo about sex. So the cards are for that, and it's a fun way to talk about sex, and those are the use your mouth cards. Now the book is use your mouth, and it's a pocket-sized book. It's about, and it's conversations to simply increase 7 types of intimacy in and out of the bedroom. So there are 7 types
Okay.
of conversations in the book that are all 7 different forms of intimacy that's created for anyone who wants to know how intimacy outside of the bedroom contributes to great sex. We hear myths that once people get partnered or married that they stop having sex. People in long-term relationships usually say stuff like, we feel like roommates, or there's no spark in the relationship now.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are getting ready to get married, they're trying to explore their sexual selves. Their partners are trying to explore who they are sexually. And so that's basically what this book is about. It's about how to show up in different ways, and how that can increase the chances of you having the sex that you really want to have.
Okay. No, it's so fascinating. I mean, I'm not married, so I wouldn't have thought that. I mean, I would think after 20 years, you gotta know something.
So that's what people say, right? So you would say, I would think like people in relationships say, we've been together this long and you still don't know this. Well, the problem is that I'm not who I was 20 years ago. And if we're not
Mm.
consistently having these discussions, then of course you're not going to know that I've grown, because people evolve. And so a person would say, well, how do you evolve in a sexual atmosphere without your partner? Because society, because we watch TV, because we read, because we acquire so much information now, and we watch all types of porn, and we do all types of things when we masturbate, and we go to all types of girls' night out where people are talking about their experiences, and guys' nights where they're talking about their experiences. And many people are thinking, wow, I really would want that. I really wish I could have that type of experience, but I know I can't talk to my partner. We've been married for 7 years. If I go talking about this, they're going to think I'm cheating, or they're going to want to know where I get this from. So it's more so to get people comfortable about it, and to also get people to know that, hey, you change, we evolve, and it's okay that we evolve. We don't evolve at the same rate, but we have to adjust and discuss our evolution with each other.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. I mean, and I get that too, and I think that a, we're always changing. That's the only thing that's constant is change. It is a cliche,
Absolutely.
but it's true.
It's definitely
And
true.
so, yeah, you gotta, I think having those conversations with a partner is definitely helpful. So, can you give us a little sneak peek into the cards, the book?
hmm So the cards, right? The some of the direction says to make sure that you have time to ask these questions. There are 50 cards, but I don't recommend anyone going through all 50, even though people have told me, oh my God, we've gone through all of them and it's, oh, we love it and this and that. But I don't recommend that. There are a specific amount right now. People are really using the cards because we're quarantined. So they're really using
Right.
them now, and they're having fun with them. So basically you take turns, you pick 3 to 5 cards, and you don't look at the cards. So you flip a coin, or you take turns asking each other questions, and then you switch the deck. So you will give your partner your 3 cards, and they'll give you their 3 cards, and then you ask the questions again. So what some of the questions look like, they're very simple questions, but of course I'm a conversation starter, and the purpose of the cards are to create conversation for you to get to know your partner. So some of the questions in the cards are like, well, what's your best sexual experience, even if it hasn't happened yet? What do you like most and least about relationships? That is a really good card. And that
Hmm.
card, yeah, that's a really good one for a lot of people. What are some sexual turn ons? How do you like to feel before sex? So, those are some of the questions that seem like very simple questions, but when you start talking to your partner about it, you realize that, hey, we really haven't talked about our fantasies. We really haven't talked about positions. We really haven't talked about how many times we prefer to have sex in a week. So those cards create the conversation, but also it helps couples to put some things into perspective. Now, the book, on the other hand, is more about like different forms of intimacy. This book is a really short and easy read because people don't want to read novels. So they want
Right.
quick, they want it quick and to the point, and this book is definitely that. And it also comes with a bonus intimacy inventory and a feelings chart. So there's one of my favorite conversations in the book is intellectual intimacy, but also in the book I differentiate physical intimacy from sexual intimacy, because I often hear people say, I just want my partner to touch me without expecting sex to happen. I just want to cuddle without expecting sex to happen. And so they want the physical intimacy, and they're not saying I don't want sex, but what they're saying is I want you to know the difference between physical intimacy and sexual intimacy. And then, with that, it's the other partner, I want you to understand that I don't mind giving you this physical intimacy, but just know that I'm attracted to you. So if we're this close, if we're cuddling, my body might respond in a way that indicates that I'm ready for sex, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to have sex. So the book provides different types of questions and understanding for you to be able to share these experiences with your partner to increase intimacy in these different areas. And this is a #1 Amazon bestseller. So it's still on Amazon. There's an ebook version and there is the paperback version. And it's, like I said, it's really short and sweet, to the point.
That's what we need right now.
That's exactly what
So
we need.
you can buy the book on Amazon, and you can buy the book on your website.
On
right?
thegreencouch.com. Yep.
Okay. And what about the cards? Where else can we get those?
The cards are on thegreencouch.com as well.
Okay. And where can our listeners keep in touch with you?
So I am on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Sexologist Shamyra, Shamyra. And I'm very vocal. I speak back.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Shamyra. I really, really appreciate it. You are our very first podcast guest.
Thank you. I feel so honored. One of my favorite shows. You and I share the character, so I'm so excited about this.
Me too. Jones United.
Jones United.
T-shirt. Get some T-shirts.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So this is a thing.
This is a thing. We are a thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me, Rosalyn.
I want you to show me the Lynn Spin. I just want to satisfy you.
In the episodes 1 through 3 that we're talking about, the issue comes up of like an ex-boyfriend of Joan who they call toe-sucking Charles. So therein lies the question, my friends. Toe-sucking, yay or nay?
Oh, all day, every day.
Maybe for a little bit.
All day, every day.
I'm definitely not. I hate my feet. Like, it's like one of my least favorite like body parts about myself. And then just, I don't like anybody touching my feet. I don't want, I don't want any,
My feet are actually super I don't know if they're sensitive. Yeah, no, I would have and my feet are literally 2 centimeters. You could put, you
cute.
Almost might fit 5 toes in one mouth at the same time. What? So it's fine. It's fine. We can try.
No, I don't want, but if it turns him on, I'll allow him. There's a lot of other things for you to do other than suck my toes.
I don't even understand where that becomes something. I didn't know there was so much stimulus, like stimuli or something that comes from the toes. Like, I do love my feet getting massaged. Yeah, that's true. I get that. But you know what? Everyone is different. And I think we have to consider, I feel like the toe sucking thing had to have come from somebody doing that. I just don't see
someone waking up one day and be like, this is what I want. Like, I just feel like,
but people do though. Like, people have foot fetishes, and your toes are like your feet are sensitive. Like, that's why they're ticklish. Like, if you're into it,
Ray's
you're
not
into it.
Ray's
I think because I'm very stubborn, and I don't think I would want to do that. I think I would make my man be interested in something else.
You can't. Yay. Thank you, ladies, very much for having a little chitter chat with me about Girlfriends. This was inspiring and insightful. Learned some things about toe sucking, so really appreciate it.
Bye.
Anytime, Rosie.
Peace and love, ladies.
Make sure you're subscribed to Girlfriends Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast. Don't forget to leave us a review. And also, you can find us on Instagram at Girlfriends Podcast, on our website, girlfriendspodcast.com, and you can also sign up for our super awesome newsletter. Don't forget to join us next week for a roundtable discussion with a group of awesome creative women for a conversation about telling Black women's stories. Definitely don't want to miss that.